What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Home of Comics. This is Brayden back again with another DC video. Today, we're going to be breaking down the first oh my god, the first two adventures, the first two episodes of My Adventures with Superman Season 3. You're probably wondering, well, the first episode came out a week ago. Why is this taking so long? So I decided I wanted to cover this show about a week ago, and I had not watched a single episode. So you're coming off of me essentially binge watching the first two seasons last week in preparation to try to get a double episode out, and then we'll cover each remaining episode every week, probably on Sunday, maybe on Monday, maybe on Tuesday. It just depends on when the video comes out. I'm recording this on the Monday after. I wanted to briefly talk about my thoughts on the series as a whole before diving into the episodes themselves. I really enjoy this show. I think that it's a good mix of like a kid show. It's clearly made for like, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, but then you also have a real maturity at times in the show, and I think that can resonate more with adults. Um, I don't think it's like peak fiction, but I also think that the show itself is good. Like, this is pretty good Superman content. I'm very happy about what I've been treated to thus far with the show, and I'm very excited about the future of My Adventures of Superman. So, season three kind of brings us into a new era for the show. We've got Supergirl, officially kind of in that My Adventures team with Superman, Lois, and Jimmy. And Supergirl and Jimmy sort of have a thing going. I'm sure that will be a larger plot line throughout the rest of the show. The episode starts off in the Fortress of Solitude, and you're kind of like, oh, okay. This season's going to be about Supergirl discovering herself. At least that's her arc, right? Like Superman's probably going to have a different arc, but that's going to be Supergirl's arc. And you kind of sit there and you're like, okay, that makes sense. We saw Supergirl; she was really evil in season two at times. She was overtaken by Brainiac at times. That whole plot line, very much so, leads to her not really being her own person. We get now to the Kent's farm. They're doing like a Halloween thing, and I don't really know why the season takes place in the fall. Maybe there's better story details for that. But like I personally would try to set it in the summer, 'cause that's when I'm watching it. So it's like I have a disconnect now between when the show is actually happening and then like when I'm watching it. But that's okay. The big part about episode one is they're setting up Superboy. He's in the teasers. He's in the intro for the show. They stumble across like this laboratory that's got these Kryptonian, like, basically they're bioengineering like Kryptonian specimens, and you encounter Bizarro's in there, which was really cool actually. The take that they have on Bizarro is really quite unique. He's sort of like Superman in a lot of ways, because he was raised to be like hopeful for the future, and like he's obviously not as intelligent as Superman or really any of the main cast at all. And that includes Supergirl, who is, I think, very intelligent, just not really there in terms of Earth customs. Um, Bizarro, to me, is going to be a very interesting character though, because he's probably going to be manipulated. He's easy to manipulate in a lot of ways. However, he wants to do the right thing, and that's very similar to his appearances in like Silver Age comics. And I am interested in how it's going to resonate in 2026 with Bizarro, but I'm very excited about that. Um, I don't think this episode is amazing. Like I do think that there are issues with, ultimately, they've got this like Jimmy Supergirl thing going on, and it continues into episode two. So I can talk about that briefly as well, because we might as well just rate them as if they're one episode anyway. Um, there's this current storyline going on with Jimmy where he feels he's not good enough for Supergirl. Here's the issue with that: Jimmy is smart. He's a smart guy. He's got the most aura. Like, he's clearly the most, like, confident in himself, and that goes for Superman as well. Like, I think he's more confident than Clark is on a daily basis. So I don't know why he's sitting here being like, "Well, Supergirl, there might be better people for you out there because you haven't explored Earth yet." And from a storytelling perspective, it's clear because they want to establish the storyline of Supergirl going to other places on Earth and discovering herself, and ultimately it'll probably lead to her just being with Jimmy at the end of the show or the end of the season. To me, though, it's like, okay, that just feels really forced. Like, we're sitting here. Clearly, Jimmy's got aura. He's got money. He's got intelligence. He's a good person. There's not really any reason why a girl wouldn't want to be with Jimmy Olsen unless they just weren't attracted to him. That's not the case with Supergirl. She clearly loves him, and she expressed as much in episode 2. She was like, "I clearly have romantic affection for you." I don't really understand why Jimmy's self-sabotaging. Like, you know, he's a human being and he's able to make mistakes. I just feel like writing wise it's so weak because they're trying to just create a plotline that can last the whole season instead of just being like, no, we could just wrap this up in 2 episodes. And Supergirl can still go off and discover herself. She can just do it while still, Jimmy is like her partner. So whatever. This show relies a lot on romantic relationships, which I think is fine, especially because Clark and Lois being like a big aspect of that is good for Superman mythos. Like I think that it's good that they're always together and they shouldn't really be separated. But it's just like sometimes they really want they really want the relationships between different characters to take an entire season to develop when it doesn't need to. um what else? Episode 2 introduced us to Toyman. Lois basically goes insane the entire episode thinking, oh, Toyman's definitely still evil, and he's like, no, I'm just making toys now for like kids. And it's like, okay, like obviously this guy's gonna be evil by the end of the episode, and he is. Um and then Episode 2 also reveals that Hank Henshaw is uh, like this new cyborg Superman. And as characters My Adventures cast does not know that he's a cyborg yet. And Lex Luthor kind of just took him from nothing, took Hank from literally nothing. He was completely mutilated and made him into, again, cyborg Superman, is what the subtitles actually call him. We don't know what he's gonna go by in terms of a superhero name, but they Lex was literally like, "You're Hank Henshaw." Like I don't so that's gonna be, I think, a main villain at least for the first 5 episodes. I'm assuming the next 3 episodes might deal with that, and then we might go into whatever goes on with Bizarro, or maybe just Lex in general. Maybe he does like the mech suit. That would be great synergy with Man of Tomorrow, which comes out next year. We've obviously seen the war suit in that so far, and like the set photos. It would be really cool to see that in My Adventures with Superman. The last thing I kind of want to touch on is that this episode 2, of course, also ties into My Adventures of Green Lantern. We see Jessica Cruz. She's Supergirl's kind of like on this, like, it's not a reality show. It's like an interview. It's like a live interview. It's like a town hall almost, with Cat Grant. And I hate Cat Grant. Such a terrible character. Just so boring and so useless. And I just don't care. Like she's just useless and boring. Not interesting at all in the slightest. um, Jessica Cruz basically comes up and she's like, the difference between Superman and Supergirl, the reason why Metropolis might need two heroes is because Supergirl's a warrior. Superman protects us. He's a defender. But Supergirl's on the attack. She's offensive, like, and in a good way, not like in an I'm offended, but like, like she's an offensive person. She's going to attack, and that's good. Metropolis might need an attacker. It doesn't make her evil. It just means that she's willing to stand up for what and fight for what she believes in. And Jessica really likes that. Now, Jessica clearly doesn't have Green Lantern powers yet. That might just happen in her show. I don't really know. Maybe it'll happen at some point during this show, but I fully believe that it'll happen in My Adventures of Green Lantern. But it made me more interested in who Jessica Cruz is. I think that could be really she could be a really compelling character. She's already got a really interesting sense of difference between Supergirl and Superman, and I think for the audience, it makes sense. Okay, Supergirl's the attacker, Superman's the protector, but the fact that people in Metropolis are seeing that too is good. Because it means that we can get Supergirl to stay in the Superman show and not spin off into her own thing because she has to leave Metropolis because Metropolis can't have two heroes, which is BS anyway. Because as far as I'm concerned, um, Metropolis faces enough grave threats that maybe Superman isn't the only thing that can stop them. Maybe you do need a second hero. But that's my thoughts on the first 2 episodes of My Adventures with Superman. It's funny for sure. There's plenty of laugh out loud moments, but like it's not always my type of humor. Again, it's directed towards 10 to 12-year-olds, so I'm not really always laughing. The action is pretty good. There's definitely enough surprises. Like I didn't expect Cyborg Superman to come out of nowhere. That was interesting for sure. Um, I think I'd give both episodes a 7 out of 10. Thinking about it too, like I do think episode 2 is maybe a little bit weaker. Episode 1, just not a lot of happens. It's very slow, this show so far, which is fine. That's kind of how they all start off. I just hope that it picks up sometime soon because there's only 10 episodes and they're all 20 minutes long. You only got about 3 hours of total showtime left. Let's get some of these plot lines going. Cyborg Superman is definitely a step in the right direction there, though. maybe I'd give episode 2 a 6 out of 10. I'll stay with the 7 for now. We'll let the show play out and try to impress me a little bit more. But those are my thoughts on the first 2 episodes of My Adventures with Superman. Obviously, there are things I've missed. I'm doing a lot of this off the cuff, but also just like these episodes are not all. Sometimes there's details you just will miss because it's like it's not always super engaging the way that a mainline DC entry might be. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like, comment down below your thoughts on the first 2 episodes of My Adventures with Superman and anything again that I missed. Like, subscribe. I think I already said that. And I'll see you guys in the next review. Also, podcast this week. It's gonna be great. Please come by and say hello because we're gonna be live streaming it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.